In a shocking encounter on a quiet D.C. street, two police officers made the mistake of their lives when they handcuffed Major General Tamara Washington, the highest-ranking black female officer in the U.S. Army, unaware that her next call to the Pentagon would unravel their careers in a matter of hours. Major General Tamara Washington had spent 3 decades climbing the ranks of the U.S. Army, a journey marked by resilience, sacrifice, and an unshakable commitment to her country. At 52, she was a force of nature, sharp-witted, commanding, and revered by those who served under her. Her presence alone could shift the atmosphere in any room. Her uniform crisp with stars that told a story of breaking barriers in a world where few black women had ever reached her heights. On the evening of April 14, 2025, she was in Washington, D.C., for a series of high-level briefings at the Pentagon. It was supposed to be a routine day. It wasn't. Tamara had just left a late meeting at a secure facility near Capitol Hill. Dressed in civilian clothes, a tailored blazer, slacks, and a silk scarf, she was walking to her car, a modest black sedan parked a few blocks away. The streets were quiet, the spring air cool against her skin. She carried a leather satchel with classified documents, her phone tucked into her pocket, and her Pentagon ID badge clipped discreetly inside her jacket. Her mind was still on the briefing, mentally cataloging action items for the next day, when the flashing lights of a police cruiser cut through the dusk. Officers Daniel Harper and Michael Ruiz, both in their early 30s, were patrolling the area. Harper, the senior of the two, had been with the D.C. Metro Police for 8 years, while Ruiz, his partner, was newer, with just 3 years on the force. They were responding to a vague report of suspicious activity in the neighborhood, a call that had come in from a resident who claimed to have seen someone loitering near a parked car. The description was thin, a black individual, possibly female, wearing dark clothing. To Harper and Ruiz, Tamara fit the bill. As Tamara approached her sedan, she noticed the cruiser pulling up behind her. She paused, her instincts honed from years in high-stakes environments, and turned to face the officers as they stepped out of the vehicle. Harper took the lead, his hand resting casually on his holster. Ruiz followed, his posture tense, eyes scanning Tamara as if sizing her up. "Evening, ma'am," Harper said, his tone clipped but polite. "Mind telling us what you're doing out here?" Tamara's expression remained calm, though her mind was already analyzing the situation. She'd been through enough in her career to recognize the undercurrent of suspicion in Harper's voice. "I'm heading to my car," she replied evenly, gesturing toward the sedan. "I just finished a meeting." Harper's eyes narrowed slightly. "You got ID on you?" he asked, stepping closer. Ruiz moved to her left, subtly boxing her in against the car. Tamara nodded, reaching slowly into her jacket to retrieve her Pentagon ID. She held it up, the seal of the Department of Defense glinting under the streetlight. "Major General Tamara Washington, U.S. Army," she said, her voice steady but firm, carrying the weight of her rank. Harper glanced at the ID but didn't take it. His lips pressed into a thin line. "That's a military ID," he said, as if it were irrelevant. "You got a driver's license or something else?" Tamara's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. She'd faced skepticism before, countless times in fact. Being a black woman in her position meant navigating assumptions and biases daily, but this was different. The officer's body language, the way they positioned themselves, told her this wasn't just a routine stop. "My driver's license is in my bag," she said, motioning to the satchel slung over her shoulder. "I'd be happy to show you, but I need to know why I'm being questioned." Ruiz spoke up for the first time, his tone sharper than Harper's. "We got a call about someone matching your description acting suspicious. You need to cooperate, ma'am." Tamara's eyes flicked to Ruiz, then back to Harper. "Suspicious how?" she asked, her voice calm but cutting. "I'm standing next to my own car about to drive home. What exactly is suspicious about that?" Harper didn't answer directly. Instead, he gestured toward her satchel. "Open the bag. Let's see what's inside." Tamara's pulse quickened, not out of fear but out of a growing realization that these officers were escalating the situation without cause. The satchel contained classified documents, materials she was duty-bound to protect. She wasn't about to let two patrol officers rummage through it on a whim. "I'm a general officer with the U.S. Army," she said, her voice rising slightly but still controlled. "The contents of this bag are classified. I'm not opening it without proper authorization." Harper's face hardened. He exchanged a glance with Ruiz, who nodded subtly. "Ma'am, I'm not going to ask again," Harper said. "Open the bag, or we're going to have a problem." Tamara stood her ground, her posture straight, her eyes locked on Harper's. "I've identified myself and shown you my credentials. If you have a specific reason to detain me, I'd like to hear it. Otherwise, I'm going to my car." That was the moment the encounter took a turn. Harper stepped forward, his hand now gripping his holster. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back," he ordered. "You're under arrest for obstructing a police investigation." Tamara's breath caught, not out of surprise but out of disbelief. She'd faced combat zones, negotiated with foreign leaders, and briefed the Joint Chiefs of Staff, yet here she was on a D.C. street, being treated like a criminal. She considered her options: comply and de-escalate, or stand her ground and risk further escalation. Her training told her to comply, but her dignity screamed otherwise. "Officers," she said, her voice low and deliberate, "you're making a mistake. I'm going to comply, but I want your names and badge numbers." Ruiz smirked, pulling out his cuffs. "You'll get all that at the station," he said, grabbing her wrist and snapping the cuffs on. The cold metal bit into her skin as Harper read her Miranda rights. His voice mechanical, as if he'd done this 100 times before. As they led her to the cruiser, Tamara's mind was already moving. She wasn't just a civilian caught in a bad situation. She was a general with direct access to some of the most powerful people in the country. She knew exactly what she needed to do. At the precinct, Tamara was placed in a holding.